This entire structure collapsed because of a change smaller than your finger. On July 17, 1981, over 1,000 people packed the Kansas City Hyatt Regency for a night of music and dancing. Seconds later, 114 were dead and more than 200 were injured. The cause was a single design modification, so small it passed every inspection, and almost no one can explain how it was ever approved. Lights bounced off polished marble, spilling across the Hyatt Regency's atrium like a river of gold. The air was thick with excitement. Hundreds of guests wore pressed suits and glittering dresses, their voices rising and falling in waves. A live jazz band played from the mezzanine, horns and drums echoing up toward the glass ceiling, their sound mixing with laughter and the clink of glasses. People crowded every level. The walkways on the second and fourth floors stretched overhead, packed with spectators leaning over the railings for a better view of the dancers below. Shoes tapped against the steel decking, sending tiny metallic echoes through the air. On the floor, couples spun and swayed in time with the music. The whole space shimmered, reflections of moving bodies rippled across the marble, lights glinting off sequined dresses and polished shoes. It felt like the center of Kansas City's universe. Waiters wove through the crowd balancing trays, the scent of champagne and cologne swirling together. Old friends hugged, strangers toasted, and all eyes drifted upward to the skywalks, where the best vantage points filled up fast. No one noticed the weight building above them. Not a single guest gave a thought to the steel and concrete holding it all together. Why would they? On that night, in that moment, the Hyatt Regency felt invincible. But sometimes, the most ordinary details, the ones nobody questions, are the ones that decide everything. A faint creak cuts through the music. At first, it is easy to ignore, a sound you might blame on the air conditioning or the shifting of a heavy purse. But for some, it lingers just long enough to catch their attention. A woman on the second-floor skywalk pauses mid-conversation, brow furrowing. Someone else glances down at their feet, unsure if the floor just moved. Was it their imagination, or did the walkway give a little under the crowd? Nobody says anything, not yet. The band keeps playing, couples keep dancing, but a handful of guests start to feel uneasy. The metal beneath their shoes seems to hum with the weight of hundreds of bodies. One man leans over to his wife and whispers, "Did you hear that?" She shrugs it off, but her hand tightens on the railing. The creak grows sharper, turning into a low, drawn-out groan. It is the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop, even if you cannot explain why. A teenager on the fourth-floor walkway feels the structure sway, just a little, and laughs nervously. Feels like a roller coaster, he jokes, but his friends do not laugh back. They are listening now, too. Then, a sudden metallic snap slices through the atrium. It is loud, louder than the jazz, louder than the chatter. Heads turn. For a split second, everything freezes. What just broke? Is it safe to stand here? The questions hang in the air, unanswered. And in that breathless moment, nobody realizes just how much is about to go wrong. How much can change in a single second. The most dangerous mistakes are not the obvious ones. They are the ones that look completely safe. A split second, that's all it took. The music cuts out mid-note. A sharp, metallic crack, like a gunshot, rips through the lobby. Heads snap up. The second-floor walkway drops first, slamming straight down onto the crowd below. Before anyone can react, the fourth-floor skywalk follows, crashing down in a storm of steel and glass. It's over in less than 4 seconds. The sound is deafening. Steel beams twist and buckle. Glass panels explode, spraying shards across the marble. People vanish under the falling walkways. One moment they're laughing, the next they're gone. The weight of 30 tons comes down without warning. The floor shakes, lights flicker. Screams fill the air, sharp and desperate, drowning out everything else. A live television camera, pointed at the crowd, catches the chaos as it unfolds. The footage stutters. For a moment, all you see is dust and bodies tumbling. People scramble, tripping over each other, trying to pull friends from the wreckage. Shoes, purses, and jackets are buried under twisted metal. A man staggers out, blood running down his face, calling for his wife. Somewhere in the haze, a child cries for help. Fire alarms blare. Waiters drop trays and run. The band stands frozen on the mezzanine, instruments hanging at their sides. In less than a minute, the Hyatt's grand atrium is transformed from a party into a disaster zone. No one saw it coming. No one has answers. All that's left is shock, confusion, and a single terrifying question. How could something that looked so safe come apart so fast? The most dangerous mistakes aren't the obvious ones. They're the ones that look completely safe. The investigation team moved in fast. By sunrise, Hyatt's marble floors were covered with evidence tags and camera tripods. Engineers and inspectors circled the wreckage, notebooks in hand, searching for something, anything, that could explain what had just happened. What they found was a scene that did not fit the usual disaster script. No scorch marks, no twisted remains from a fire, no sign of an earthquake or wild weather. The steel beams were not rusted. The glass was not fogged by smoke. Everything looked almost too clean. Inspectors flipped through the construction drawings, looking for a red flag. Each page carried an official stamp, signed, dated, and approved by a licensed engineer. The plans matched what was left of the walkways. According to the paperwork, nothing should have gone wrong. One investigator scrawled in his field notes, "All structural members inspected are as per the stamped drawings. No abnormal loading observed." At a press briefing, officials repeated it. The walkways were built according to the approved plans. No wind, no fire, just a static load from the crowd. So why had the whole thing come crashing down in seconds? The stamped drawings were supposed to be a guarantee. If the plans were right and the weather was calm, what invisible flaw had slipped through? The search for answers was just beginning, and nobody liked how many questions were piling up. The most dangerous mistakes are not the obvious ones. They are the ones that look completely safe. A single measurement changed everything. Investigators huddled over the wreckage, tape measures in hand, searching for anything that did not match the blueprints. That is when someone noticed it. 1 inch. The hanger rods holding up the walkways were not lined up straight. Instead, the lower rod was shifted sideways by about 1 inch. On paper, it looked like nothing, a tiny offset, the kind of tweak you would expect to see in 1,000 construction projects. But this was not just a detail, it was the detail. Think of it like this. Imagine hanging a heavy weight from a rope tied to the ceiling. Now cut the rope in half and join the pieces with a knot that is pushed just 1 inch to the side. Suddenly the pull is not straight down anymore. The knot has to fight extra forces it was never meant to handle. That is exactly what happened inside the Hyatt Regency. The original design called for a single, straight rod, a direct line from ceiling to floor. But the ACE-built version used 2 rods joined at a plate with that 1 inch shift. The load did not travel straight through. Instead, the connection twisted, bent, and strained against the offset. What seemed like a harmless shortcut actually doubled the weight on a single point. All that pressure built up night after night until the connection gave way. A 1 inch change, invisible to the eye, was all it took to turn a party into a disaster. The most dangerous mistakes are not the obvious ones. They are the ones that look completely safe. Here's what nobody saw coming. That 1 inch shift in the hanger rods did not just nudge the metal sideways. It completely rewired how the weight traveled through the walkways. The original plan was simple, a single solid steel rod running straight from the ceiling, through the 4th floor walkway, all the way down to the 2nd floor skywalk. Think of it like hanging 2 swings on 1 rope. The rope takes all the weight, top to bottom, no problem. But the change broke that rope in half. Instead of 1 continuous rod, workers installed 2 separate rods with a steel plate in between, a split. Now the upper rod held only the 4th floor walkway. The lower rod was forced to hang the 2nd floor walkway from that plate, not from the ceiling. Here's the kicker. That plate now had to carry both walkways at once. It was never designed for that. Suddenly, the load on each connection point doubled. Imagine holding two heavy buckets with one hand instead of two. Your grip fails fast. On paper, the change looked harmless. In reality, the split connection cut the strength of each support line in half. The steel plate bent, the welds strained, and the rods started to pull apart. Nobody noticed because the walkways looked exactly the same, but the math was unforgiving. When the party started, every step, every tap of a shoe pushed the connection closer to the breaking point, all because of a 1-inch shortcut. The most dangerous mistakes are not the obvious ones. They are the ones that look completely safe. Right now, every new building depends on a chain of tiny decisions, each one invisible until it isn't. Engineering standards changed after this collapse, but human error never disappears. The most dangerous mistakes aren't the obvious ones. They're the ones that look completely safe. What do you think?